Welcome back to the KFiles. Today we are talking about EBE. Thank you for joining us here again in the lush basement office. I am your host, Katie Moeller, and I'm joined by
your co-host, Chrysalia, and we're coming at you from HollywoodRedux.com.
Yes, and we're talking about EBE today.
Really good episode today.
Yeah, so we've been spending a little bit of time in the first season. We had not done any early episodes, really. I don't remember any first seasons.
We did some, but we kind of went through it really fast, to be honest. So
Too fast.
Yes,
gotta slow down. First impressions. You like the episode a lot?
I love the episode, man. I actually enjoyed it really much just because, like you said, it's the first season again, so I actually get to see Mulder and Scully at their prime, when they're barely meeting each other and just working as a team in general. So they're both very good stuff.
They're both young bucks.
Aww.
They're both in a way we never ever see them again.
Correct.
Becoming. Mulder is gangly and a little scared, doesn't know himself all that well, doesn't see all that.
He's a youngster, man.
I wrote down when we were watching this a very you judge it. I wrote down this note. Scully in this time on the show doesn't know when she's asleep. And Mulder on the show can't tell when he's awake. That's the problem. Okay. So Mulder in this part of the show is never sure when he's onto the truth and when he's being used to perpetuate the lie.
Right. Okay.
And Scully in this part of the show has just stepped into the special world of the XFiles and has not accepted it yet at all.
No, and she's still very religion is powerful, science is the facts. She's barely,
you're exactly right. She is a very orderly version of the world.
Hey, she's starting out. She's starting out. It's all the new beginning. So
yeah, don't forget she's Starbuck. She's the True North. She has been named by her father as True North, and she is the speaker of truth always on the show. And this episode is no different. But in this part of the series, she is doesn't, like I said, she doesn't know that she's asleep yet because she still thinks that the real world rules apply, but she's in the special world of the XFiles now, and it's a whole different ball game. So she's having to even realize all that she doesn't know. Right. That's what Mulder's realizing too, that there are all these worlds that these two don't even see, that they're showing to each other.
Right.
And they're just starting to see it because we're only a few months into their partnership.
This is true. And the best part is they're doing it together, which is something we always talk about in all our podcasts, that they're doing this journey together and individually at the same time.
That's that platonic relationship that Chris Carter likes to tease the fans by saying. But yeah, and in this part there isn't the overt romance that it's never overt, but it's a little more overt later on. But in this part of the show that hasn't really been overt at all yet. It's very nuanced. It's in the invisible world of the show. But that's a lot of fun. A lot of people on the internet find these episodes the best of the entire series. These first season episodes that are kind of like Twin Peaks, basically, where you go to a small town in a place that looks like it has magical woods, magical misty woods, which is always the truth is always Vancouver, and
usually is.
Yeah, and then they solve a very mystical crime that has real world science fiction components that are fascinating, compelling, and then also the invisible world of sometimes it's Scully's religion, or most often it's in these mythology episodes, the mystical aspects to aliens, to the EBE in this episode. So the EBE, we never even saw it. It was never, we thought it was real. Mulder had it was real tangible proof. It's here. We never even saw the actual EBE itself, the entity.
That's right.
It's a UFO. It's another, it's like the body version of the UFO, this thing that we know exists, that there is evidence that supports it, but then there's also this whole other side of that coin that suggests that if it is, even if it is If it is real, how much of it is real and how much of it is part of this conspiracy that we're uncovering of a group of men to obfuscate the truth from the American people. That is the story of the show, and, has real world implications that were strange back then and now are downright chilling, horrifying, or hopeful, depending on how you read the show.
It's up to you guys.
We like to look on both sides. We like to try and find. I mean, that's the truth. That is the truth. That's the truth of EBE. For, man. Well, no, but that's the truth of EBE in a very specific way. That is the truth of the XFiles, which is like all these things are true at once. Deep Throat was a liar and a truth teller. He told Mulder one of the most important truths in all of the XFiles, which is that the best lies are hidden between two truths. So you put a lie squarely. Yeah, you hide a lie so perfectly that people have to accept it, or else they can't accept other truths, because people are uncomfortable with gray area. They have to know one thing is one way. They have to know, okay, I feel this way about this thing, instead of living in the present, evaluating all the information. So, that's the truth of the X-Files, is that all things are true at once. The truth is not the good stuff. The truth is everything. You have to look at everything. That's the truth. You can't discount anything. Right. Mulder can't discount Catholicism, even though he does often, but he loses when he does. Yeah, well, he doesn't get it yet. He gets the nettle.
Eventually he'll get there.
There are some great religious episodes we haven't even looked at yet on the show. I'm very excited to do. We'll do a whole we have some no spoilers, but we have a religious episode coming up actually. Close. So we'll do like a whole religious section to just go through, because
we'll go down the categories.
It's so much fun on the X-Files to look at subjects in general, but religion's a lot of fun on the show. But in EBE we're talking about one of the best parts of the X-Files, this conspiracy of men, and a conspiracy to hide information, to keep information from people. That's what we're talking about here. That's what Deep Throat said. And Mulder was like, well, why do you get to decide? That is the question the X-Files asks, is who is deciding what is true? Right. Because if the American people is not comfortable with the gray area, if they have to know how they feel about something, if someone has to tell them how to feel about something, then the person who is telling them that something has a great deal of power. So if it's a group of people who are pushing an agenda to do a whole other thing that most people would never imagine could be real because it's aliens, I mean, there you go.
It's a whole different we're not even going to touch that subject. Just kidding, we are. Fucking aliens, man. I love this episode. The
flashlight beam catches what it will.
Dude, I love this episode so much just because not only did we see like Mulder go through all this, but also Scully being put to the test, really. Because for her, she's coming into the X-Files, who is someone like really based on religion and science and facts, and in this one she got put to the test, and I'm glad she went with her gut feeling and actually listened to Mulder.
Yeah, well, they have to listen to each other. She was so close not to, though. She was so close to just throwing. That's how it always goes. That's what these episodes are the characters having these dreams where they ask these questions and they play out what happens if. Right. What happens if Mulder doesn't believe me but believes Deep Throat instead? What happens if A to B to C? And I think it's the best thing about a Morgan and Wong episode. This episode was written by, I love them so much, James Morgan, James Wong and Glen Morgan. Yes. And they write some of the best episodes of the X-Files, especially in these days. Sure. The first season, they was so new and fresh; it had never been on TV before. And EBE is one of those episodes that I think when people saw it for the first time, they really had never seen anything like it. And it, it's a testament to James Morgan and Glen Wong. I keep mixing their names up. James Wong and Glen Morgan and Wong. That's
just
easier. Let's stick with them. The way that they write Mulder and Scully is a very alive way. It's a way that makes them feel as if when we're not seeing them on screen, they live and breathe elsewhere. That they like have these adventures together.
I absolutely agree.
This episode, EBE, is a little mini any adventure. It's like basically the Fight the Future done in TV instead of film, where they go on this adventure in pursuit of, again, a vehicle. Remember in Fight the Future, they go after the train. This one, they go after the truck. Geez, Chris ripped off this episode for Fight the Future. Not ripped off. It's his X-Files, right?
He can do what he wants.
Look, I'm not a moralist. Anyway, so they go on these adventures, and while they're on the adventure, they have all these little exchanges with each other, little interchanges, and when they were talking and Scully was writing, and then the woman asked to borrow the pen, and we find out that's important later because the pen is being tracked. So we're like, why do we care about the pen?
Sneaky.
But then later we find out it's got a bug in it. But anyway, in that moment, I just thought, like, even if that didn't pan out later in the story, what a wonderful little exchange where you feel like they're alive. Like, Scully didn't say a word to that woman, but she gave her the pen with goodwill and then took it back. And then she and Mulder had like a little thing over the pen. Or like later in the car. Or, oh my God, we haven't even talked about Duchovny's spectacular acting choices.
We also have to talk about, really quickly, the Lone Gunmen.
Oh my God, and it's the first Lone Gunmen. There's a lot in this episode. But yeah, so Duchovny, we realized we had to rewind it to catch it. I'd never seen it before. Duchovny, in the very beginning of the episode, when they're interviewing the truck driver, Duchovny has got his foot up on the table or on his chair, but it's like you could see his sock and his leg, and then he's dipping his fingers into the water pitcher.
To be fair, I completely forgot you did that while we were watching the episode.
It's such a weird moment. I caught out, and then we had to rewind it to look at it. And I just think, it sent me on this tangent thinking, in this time, this is how Mulder was. Duchovny did an interview early on in the show where he was talking about his version of his perspective on Mulder. And he said that he knew somebody in a social circle that was like this, it was a married couple, and the husband, the man in the relationship, was like completely socially inept, like could not be in public, could not handle himself, and everybody was like, oh my gosh. And he was married to this really wonderful woman, and Duchovny thought that the woman normalized him, that wonderful person made him, the other person, like okay. And so that's how Mulder came to be viewed for Duchovny, is that Mulder was sort of this socially, social maladjust who Scully made a real person. So he was doing all this weird stuff in the first season, and Scully sort of got him to, I get the sense that Mulder, that version of Mulder, he doesn't care what other people think about him because he's so in his own world and in the special world of the X-Files, he has lost sight of everyone else around him. And I think Scully pulls him back from that. It's like the mind has lost track of the body, and Scully brings him back to, you shouldn't do that. Like, put your hands in the water pitcher because we're going to pour it into a glass and give it to the guy. Anyway.
She can't get over that. Like, it's the funniest thing to me.
Yeah.
I love it.
And of course, we should talk about the Lone Gunmen. It's a great intro, and the whole time Scully's just like a stone cold fox.
Those guys are fucking awesome, dude. Like, seriously.
It's a fucking awesome episode. There's so much action. The adventure these guys go on, they go to that security center, they're getting shot at by MPs. There's that whole hoax where it's the bright light that gets them off the hoax of the alien abduction, where they have to do the stopwatch to even know that they're involved in the hoax.
That was very well played out at the end.
It's a cool episode. I'm saying it's like a mini Fight the Future. It had more hijinks than Fight the Future, than the X-Files feature film.
This gives me hope for season 1.
Morgan and Wong.
More hope. Like, it's going to be, I'm glad we're doing this and seeing it from, like, first episode to the end. So.
Me too. And just like Deep Throat wandering off in the fog at the end of that episode, that's it for the KFiles. I'm your host, Katie Moeller. You can find me at KMoles.
And I'm your co-host, Chrysalia. You can find me at Chrysalia.
We're coming to you live from HollywoodRedux.com. We have a lot of other great content, including a movie review podcast called The Writer's Room, and a video game podcast called IGL, which you should know if you are into that kind of thing. We have E3 coverage going on this week, so you should really stay tuned. Like us on Facebook and Twitter. Share us. Find our YouTube and subscribe. There should be a button somewhere that you can locate. And you should also check out past episode of the KFiles. We just did Fire, which is a great episode.
Mark Shepard's in it, so watch it.
The Ultimate Crowley. Lazarus was a recent episode. We're staying in the first season for a while, so stick around if you like that sort of thing. If you like Twin Peaks, if you like, I don't know, really good freaking TV, if you like really amazing writing and flawless production production in a time when it really couldn't have been that flawless. I could go on. Are you still watching? Are you subscribing? Are you liking? There are things to do here. There are activities. All right, we're going to go now, but you should really do those things we talked about. Thank you for listening. The truth is somewhere locatable on this page. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.